Hi, I'm Michael Leverts, and I'll never look at cozy diners the same way ever again. And this is Fit to be Read. Hello, I'm Michael Leverts, and thank you for joining me today. In today's episode, I'll introduce you, absent spoilers, to each of the 6 nominated short stories for this year's Hugo Awards. First up is Where Oaken Hearts Do Gather by Sarah Pinsker. This appeared in Uncanny magazine issue 39. This was a fairly complex story presented in an original and perhaps purposely non-complex format. The story investigates and seeks to explain, in depth, the meaning of an old ballad, Where Oaken Hearts Do Gather. The familiar, not familiar format of the story is that of an internet forum and a comments thread. Unfamiliar, of course, because short stories are not presented this way, and familiar, of course, because we have all seen internet articles with comment threads. Because of the unique presentation, the strength of the storytelling, and Pinsker's ability to draw you in and build the suspense, especially in this type of format, I expect this one to be a real contender. This was also nominated and became a finalist for the Nebula Awards as well, and I spoke about this in a previous video when I was reviewing short stories for the Nebula Awards. Next is Unknown Letter by Blue Newstifter. I was kind of ready maybe to pan this, not out loud, but just in the privacy of my mind, because I was already waffling on Where Oaken Hearts Do Gather for its use of a social media style presentation. It took me 5 seconds to get pulled into this text dialogue format. This is an interesting conversation featuring an interesting take on gender and gender transitioning and the multiverse. I probably still lean more towards calling this creative performance art rather than categorize it for me as a short story. Regardless, it's a very touching story, and it's original, and it's a well-crafted multiverse idea. This was an excellent short story. Another great short story, Proof by Induction by José Pablo Iriarte. This was also nominated and is a finalist for a Nebula Award. The story features some future tech that allows the main character, a professor on edge about whether or not he will be granted tenure at his university, to collaborate with a post-death representation of his deceased mathematician father. The story examines consciousness and is cleverly written. Next is Tangles by Seanan McGuire. This fantasy story of a woman searching for a tree to bond with brought up Speaker for the Dead vibes. The main character has seemingly exhausted her previous symbiotic relationship with a tree spirit and is wandering the forest, seeking and listening for another potential match. In addition to symbiotic trees, the story features a wandering mage, a bit of conflict, and some time manipulation. One more Nebula finalist short story, also a Hugo finalist short story, Mr. Death by Alix Harrow. Mr. Death is a reaper, and his duties of escorting the recently deceased hits a bit of a snag. The story feels cute at first, as the idea of the reaper is sort of normalized or humanized, but an inevitable uncomfortable assignment introduces the story's crisis. Last but certainly not least, The Sin of America by Catherynne Valente. Upon completing this story, I was at a loss for words. I still can't tell you what The Sin of America is exactly, but I recognize it and I understand what it is. I feel it, I know it, I see it. Valente captivates with this story. This is a you can't look away because the author won't let you story. It is a story with false or fake hope, despair, willful ignorance, self-delusion, and horror. The Sin of America is beautifully told, set in a vintage, homey, folksy feeling diner with a set of really curious characters. Valente ensures that you will reread this more than once. There you have it, 6 great short story nominees. The Sin of America would be my choice to win the Hugo at this year's ChiCon. Let's see what the voters have to say. Thank you for watching today. I'm Michael Leverts, and check out one of these other videos.